welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show, and what an honor it is here on Friday the 13th. A cat that has really defied logic as it relates to making a living playing music. He's an ear-trained musician who has always been straddling the third stream of music, going back to when he connected originally with Gunther Schuller. But it goes back even farther than that, and really a guy who lines up perfectly with my own beliefs about how music and the creation of form in music should be taught. Rand Blake, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you, Jake. I've already mentioned it's such a pleasure to be here with you.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Rand. I want to read you this quote from a pianist, Mickey Tucker, and then get your feedback. He said, "Free jazz can be hard for some people to listen to. A lot of it is discordant and forget about chord changes. I do believe the avant-garde movement was an attempt to get away from the standard being, quote, how many Harold Arlen tunes or Richard Rodgers tunes do you know? It was an attempt to get away from that measuring stick for young musicianship. They took it as far away from being locked into chord changes as you could possibly get. Guys got tired of that and started to question why that should be the standard." So, Rand, I ask you this. When you were really coming up in the late 50s and early 60s, was the standard to be a jazzer? How many Harold Arlen tunes and Richard Rodgers tunes did you know? And did you basically say, oh, the heck with that, I'm doing my own thing?
Well, I don't think you know my music well. I've got so many CDs out with standards, and there are a couple albums where I do my own compositions, but I love standards. I feel that young students, though, you're very correct, they don't want to do this, and I think they should be encouraged to do both certain types of free music as well as to learn standards, but to learn standards by the people that record it, not through real book. It must be the ear on. I try to do this, and I talk about it in my book, Primacy of the Ear, but I do think they could take the first phrase of Stravinsky's Rite of Spring or Make a Cell and develop this with some decent rhythm, and what's also very important is brevity, for it not to last forever, which many things do. And I'd love you to mail me the quote, because what I do miss is chords, even though I realize that even I get sometimes tired of 2-5-1, and that people certainly they could almost think of some harmonic type of stuff in free, and then just use a little dissonance or even a bass note or ostinato. But let's not just go on to 14-minute ones.
I mean, you're nailing this. Can you talk about your own perspective on the, because you love standards, okay? But can you talk?
I do, and I like unusual ones, not just the ones that everybody plays.
Well, no, I mean, do you believe? What was your interpretation of guys like Albert Ayler and Archie Shepp? Those cats, in some cases, people say Shepp, they could play changes, but they were just tired of being boxed into being a jazzer. I just wanted you to take the audience back to when you were young.
But Albert Ayler would do his pieces like Bells and keep it within 6 or 7 minutes. He would also do a longer version live. And Archie Shepp, who works with Gene Lee on there's one wonderful album where Gene, I think it's Blase, Gene sings Sophisticated Lady herself alone. There might be a piano intro, but I think these were formed. I don't know. A lot of care was put into it, and Coltrane had a majesty, a spiritual unity that only a mature person can have. There's so much. His very final recordings, the duets, are so fantastic, and they're free. But he's already gone through the giant steps of the Blue Train. He showed his roots, and I started with a man, Dr. Willis Lawrence James, on the Field Cry, and going back. Of course, not being Afro-American might have been, I didn't grow up as much in the culture as I wanted to until I started going to church at 9 or 10 years old in the community, hearing gospel. But people don't even want to hear Mahalia, or there's I don't know, many young musicians do, so it depends who you talk with.
I think, well, hold on for a second. Can you talk about a sanctified church, an experience that you had in the sanctified church?
Well, it's nothing compared to some people that know it better. I'm no authority. I did go to the Church of God in Christ, which was located in North Hartford, not too far from where my parents lived. And I just got so immersed in the music. I had loved Mahalia before that,
right,
and the rhythms, and it just, I mean, we certainly inspired Ruth Brown, Ray Charles, more indirectly Stevie Wonder, who's such a genius himself. By the way, there are plenty of today's standards that people can dig into, like those of Stevie or Abbey Lincoln. It doesn't only have to be Gershwin.
I love it. I love it. Dude, Rand Blake is on fire.
Weiss. Yeah. I think he's rather a good composer. What did you say?
No, you're on fire. I love, but I mean, I want you to talk about what your experience was with gospel, with black music before, and then what happened to you. Talk specifically about the rhythms when you went into that church in North Hartford, because there was no traditional trap set. They were playing tambourines or hand clapping. I don't know. You know better than me.
Yes, and then Sweet Daddy's in New York, which has closed, brass bands. Well, it certainly didn't rub off in many of my recordings. I think it might have been in the album of Houston Peterson, Suffield Gothic.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't join the church because I could have not, it would have been fine not to drink or gamble, but I was a film noir addict, and so I couldn't truthfully join because the movies were not supposed to be seen. So that, but so really, I don't think I can prove. I wish it had inspired more of my music than it has, and I think now rhythm is becoming a little more important. But a lot of my albums, like Realization of a Dream, which I think is well conceived for free music, it's still, besides not swinging in the jazz sense, it's still, I didn't take into account rhythm. So the rhythm of the churches were, I think it helped my free playing, but that was very indirectly. And of course, going back to my record collection, hearing Aretha, a new interest in Whitney Houston.
Wow.
If we start after her 3 or 4 big records that Arista recorded, really where she did live things and change rhythm, all this was very influential. And, of course, the Mingus use of blues. But I guess I got more sucked in to early Mingus with sort of classical surroundings more. But let's not, we could be talking about me as a teacher, me as a creator, or me as a listener. And I know that I just would spend hours with my vinyl collection, whether it was Stravinsky, Harold Arlen, or so many people, of course, Thelonious, Chris Connor.
Wow,
And,
I love this.
of course, Billie Holiday, without saying.
So I'm just curious, like, I mean, you have to explain to the audience about, especially some of the work that you did in the late '60s. Were you adverse? Was your music arrhythmic,
Well,
or I mean, I'm trying to get the idea of
well, I
like,
don't think I deliberately tried to be arrhythmic, but in the 50s, even though I had gone to church, uh, it never occurred to me that it might really relate to my piano playing. So I think I was carelessly rhythmic. It wasn't against not having the beat. I later spent a summer at Gunther Schuller's where I took care of the house, and he had a drummer living there, and that helped. And then, hearing more and more of the music. But the beginning of my listening, besides Mahalia, was Stan Kenton, and I still love Kenton up to 1953, and then totally the band went downhill with Wagner and Pretension. But there were really interesting experiments, but they didn't swing, and I loved so many people that did swing too, like Max Roach, but it escaped me. And right now, I try to work with with bebop, going back to Reincarnation of a Lovebird, and being very faulty, almost falling on my face.
wow.
But it actually, by doing this and reviewing this, it really informs my free playing. And often my free playing have cinematic roots with a plot and a character, so that and some types of unity, and not having it last several endless moments. So there's got to be brevity.
No, brevity is. I mean, you've already made that. I love. You don't want people wanking it or yourself, just going on for endless hours of ideas.
Yeah.
But so I want you to talk about, because Kenton, what was he doing sophisticated rhythm wise pre 1953 in your mind?
I don't know. That's the honest answer.
But you said
you
said they were doing some interesting stuff, and then the band fell off in '53.
Well, I was just amazed being there. Now there are many blue-eyed people that go, but I was alone.
Wow.
In the church, and it just swept over me. And I wasn't particularly religious, but I became so at times, lifted up by the music. I don't think at that point, it may be, I don't have recordings of myself in the 50s. I really can't remember what I sounded like. I also know bands would not hire me because of my chords, which I must have picked up by listening to my records. I did have a wonderful coach later on in high school, and I did the classical piano my first few years, that many people do. But until I met Gunther, what I did on piano was a mystery to me. I know I didn't fall into classical. I could do Chopin, but I would change notes.
Right.
I didn't like to read. I really didn't swing. I can now a few minutes a year if the lights are low and I've had the right glass of wine.
Yeah, I dig.
But I'm not known for that. I wish I could be McCoy. He's a giant. And so I don't think I ever... there were other people that guided me, like George Russell, Mal Waldron. I spent years studying with them privately. But Gunther could sort of define through my limitations, I could not be considered either classical jazz or, I just loved the ballads. And then later incorporated a little bit of speed. What would be to other people a mid-tempo became my speed.
Did you feel? So first of all, I'm sorry if I didn't make myself clear. My question was, what were you getting off about Stan Kenton pre-1953?
Well, I'm a nut for Chris Connor.
Yeah.
They're all about Ronnie. And she continued for a few years to experiment, and here she's not, and she made probably a better living than the wonderful Betty Carter, but she's going to be forgotten. But I don't think those Bill Russo arrangements, he was a great teacher. Somehow I picked some of them up, and whereas I didn't pick up the horn lines, I think it was the orchestral colors of gospel and big band, and of course Duke Ellington, who can forget that genius. So I'm quite self-taught, even though Gunther would monitor and he would say, "Rand, you're wandering, or you're picking up cliches." And I didn't know what a tape recorder is when I started studying with him, and so I had, it was 50 years, but the last few years were 3 lessons a year. I was lucky if I could get that.
Wow.
So, but in terms of really defining, I find the analysis of music is fascinating, but I was a very slow learner, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know. I was aware of my limitations and things I couldn't do, and they didn't all disappear. I still have limitations, but I didn't know what I was worth, and I still don't know if I could put that in a coherent paragraph.
Well, no, I think
I'm more interested in hearing about other people than what I do.
Well, no, I think it's just interesting. I think regardless, I think it's instructive because we live in this time now of insatiable branding. You have to be branded as something, and
exactly,
genre-based branding. And here you are, sort of in some ways being turned down to join bands because of your, the chords that you were playing, and I kind of wanted you to talk about the luck that you had in your early career, because I'm just kind of making a speculation here, but before Schuller, before Gunther, I feel like you were sort of nomadic in some ways because you were being. Did you feel like he was able to give you the opportunity, the permission to not fit into a genre branded box?
You couldn't have worded it better, Jake, because that's just the wording. And he certainly could, I might get a musical hug every 7 or 8 months, but he could be very strict and demanding, and probably knew that there were some things that I could respond to and other things, even my ears, which are pretty good sometimes, they have limitations. We all have limitations. And he taught me how to live with some and how to study with others. But he didn't make, I'm gathering this, these are not Gunther's words.
Right.
And by the way, just to change the subject, I did get invited by Mingus to join the group.
You did?
It was in the summer of 1960, or 59, one or the other, and I had a year more of college. And I also knew by temperament, I don't think I would have lasted a week. I told him I couldn't read music. He said, we teach by ear, and he did for quite a while. I mean, there might have been orchestral things where there was reading, but I knew there were things I just couldn't cut. And I know Jimmy Knepper had been wounded, and I know Mingus could be also very kind. But I also feel vulnerable people might feel who are weak, could be oppressed, and not able to stand up to Mingus if he was wrong.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely right.
Gunther Schuller really told me the truth. He just had me work. He knew I was never going to be a reader, but he got me to deal with a couple of things. And I was able to rehearse with large groups, but I needed more time with them to be solid, and these are busy musicians that don't have the time that Gene Lee and Ricky Ford offered me, and David Fabris and Dominic Eade. And Christine Korea, and so many others. So duets became very important to me, and also playing in solo, really constructing plots like a novelist might, but they would be musical forms, and not, of course, everybody would get it, nor was it intended for that.
Well, yeah, and I want to be clear for the audience. I mean, this wasn't, Lalo Schifrin soundtracks. You were creating dialogue, musical dialogue as a play form, or in film,
Yes.
in film form. Can you talk about did you have anybody that you can point to as somebody that you were inspired by doing that, or what was this antecedent to getting into mood film related film noir incorporating music? I mean, that to me is like you had.
I would use some scores like Laura David Raskin and Alex North's Streetcar Named Desire. By the way, one side note, you mentioned Lalo.
Yeah.
I met him in 1960, that autumn, when I was a waiter at Jazz Gallery, which really gave me a whole year of listening, and Lalo had just joined Dizzy.
Dizzy, you saw that band?
He had come from Argentina.
Oh, my God.
And we didn't know who each other, well, I hadn't cut a record yet, but he certainly was inspiring. And, of course, Quincy Jones, what he did with Pawnbroker. But so I might take the theme, elongate it, but when Dana Andrews walks into Laura's apartment, I'm talking about Otto Preminger's movie Laura,
right?
And he's shifting through her handkerchief negligee and staring at the portrait, looking at somebody who's unobtainable, who's supposedly been murdered. I'm trying to get into the mind of the character, and flashbacks, and also to play in the dark where all lights are off, and very few places will accommodate this. So it's. I wish I could be more concrete. It's still a mystery how I get certain things, but I love history, going back and listening, and also viewing DVDs again and again and again, so that I can close my eyes and know exactly where we're in the film, even if there's just music and no dialogue. This takes time. It takes obsession. Probably it's a thing that only one can do alone.
That is just fantastic. I mean, talking to Rand Blake here, just on fire. I mean,
I'd love to be a groupie, Jake, but it's just not in my chemistry.
Absolutely no, and dude, it is about going your own way. I just, how did you, psychically, I mean, jazz is, I mean, again, that term, I don't know about that, but
yeah,
it's
got so many definitions.
Like that Dizzy band with Finch and with Lalo, and like that was full conversation on the bandstand. Full,
yes,
and like, how did you?
And Charlie Rouse and Monk had conversation.
Dude. Well, I'm just like, how did you reconcile in your own mind? Just because, no matter what, whether you're playing classical music or blues or even film music, I mean, yeah, you did a lot in isolation, but over time, how did you reconcile that you were a man of musical solitude?
I think I had to be told that. And wow. Oscar Peterson said he flipped hearing some of me, and he said, "Boy, brother, do you need a lot of work."
Dude, Oscar, man.
Canada, and I guess I felt I couldn't leave college then. He was quite critical too. I don't want to say that.
Absolutely, no, I agree.
Just felt that Stan Kenton himself, Tristano, felt I was not good. I guess I should have had some self-confidence, but until some people told me that, I didn't believe in myself.
You say Oscar. Can you talk about a defining moment, like where they were like, "Hey, man, you're a bad cat," but I mean, like basically, I just feel like that lineage, that apprenticeship. Not that you were, like you look who came out of Art Blakey's band. It was Bobby Timmons and Cedar.
Oh,
All these.
he's
It was
great.
like a farm system, ran. Like it was just it made sense, and so that's how a lot of people gained confidence. I just wonder if there
Yeah,
was.
Blakey, Betty Carter, but Gunther in his own way, all great uh, mentors
I mean, who
to so
like
many
who like
musicians.
when you can you just talk about um like when you felt you sort of got. I mean, we're all sort of searching throughout our whole lives, but when
We
you
sure are, Jake.
but when you finally felt like uh who gave you that validation, that and what did they say to you that sort of put you on your path unabashedly and not worried about, because honestly I really haven't come across a lot of cats. Again, a lot of people have left this planet, but I
I
haven't
sure have.
I haven't come across, Ran, a lot
I'm
of
on my way.
I think you're completely unique in the lexicon of music, and I just wanted, you know, for those cats today, because we live in a more conformist society now than ever before. Back in the day, you could walk down the street and see Moondog on the corner, and Roger Kellaway's playing music
Oh,
concrete, and psychedelics were legal. It was a very open society in some ways,
oh, it became more and more so.
and and now it's so constricted, and I just wonder in
And
some
I'm
ways.
curious why.
You know what it is? What is your advice to younger cats who are completely themselves, completely feeling like on the outside of they're not conforming, and yet they just are driven by the sounds in their head? What would you say to them about persevering? Because it can be a lonely avenue.
It can be, and I think, like, I'd rather not speak it conscious. I have a couple of times, but even a program note would help. I guess
Yeah.
that's a rarity in performing at gigs like bars. I would say don't give up, but I would think of one way to compromise. I found it very easy to learn a lot of ballads, and not people's solos, but tunes, and that could make some of my music comprehensible, even if I didn't stick to the changes and I deviated from the melody a little bit. And also to keep some kind of a groove part of the time. I'm not sure I would set myself as an example for this. Uh, but I think you must persevere, and you should also, if you really want to play alone and be independent, see if you can offer compassion and interest to other musicians who feel that way, and you could perform solos for each other. You don't have to only get together to play together. There can be a forum for, forum sounds like too academic a word, but there can be some kind of a meeting place where you develop a close audience of just 3 or 4 people, and you're a member of the audience part of the time yourself, hearing others.
Are you able to do this authentically as a professor at the conservatory? Like, do you set up opportunities at the Middle East, or I don't even? I mean, like to me, like there's nothing. The painful thing for me is just the supply and demand issue. You have all these amazing cats that are in the academy coming out, and what are the employment opportunities to be a musician? But as it relates to authentically doing experiential learning in what you believe in, are you able to pull that off?
I wish I were. I wish I had the energy. I began to think about 15 years ago how important this would be.
Right.
I would. I love introducing people to each other, and I can do it sending 2 people emails and saying, "Would you reach out to each other?"
Absolutely. Yeah. Right.
In
Right.
terms of setting up a club thing and trying to get people, I wish I had done it. I'm so exhausted by the end of the school year and dealing with wonderful students, but some that are stubborn that don't want repertoire, be it that from Joni Mitchell or to other songwriters, many whom I don't know. But there seems like I can't imagine a person in the folk songwriter idiom that's never heard of Laura Nero.
You're right.
But this probably dates me. I'm 87 now.
Dude. I mean, your soul is young, man.
But it's.
No, you know what I mean. I don't expect you to. I didn't mean it like. What do you do to get as close to authenticity in the academy, teaching wise, with these cats? In terms of what you just talked about, like, do you have a yeah?
They have a list of the first year. There's a 6-year program, and a lot of times there are repeats or graduates haven't had. And this is my part of the program. This part of the third stream contemporary improvisation department,
yes.
of which we share many similarities, but each faculty has a different point of view. And I will give them a recording, mostly with singers, where they hear a Stevie Wonder, an Al Green, a Chris Connor, a Dinah Washington.
Beautiful.
And absorb the melody by ear. Chords are different. I've divided chords into 88 categories. Just 3-note chords, root position, and I don't think your listeners want a lecture on that now. But some people swoop it up. Some people are very resistant, and I don't think, it really isn't all that successful. And again, the soul, there's some things teachers cannot do. You have to have something inside, and it's up to somebody to tap it in. And I wish I could do for others what Gunther did to me. I try to, but Gunther, besides really getting inside my introversion, knew how to pique some interest in the audience, even a terribly limited audience. And of course, without him, even though I'm trying to be strong, but I don't have the follow through to put myself out. I'm lucky I have Aaron Hartley. And by the way, I would love, you're going to send me a recording of what we're talking about.
Oh, this is, we're just scratching the surface. What kind of time are you looking at? Do you have, how much more time you have?
Oh, I have another 15 minutes.
Okay, great. No, that's good, because I have there's a few.
Do another.
Yeah, no, of course I'll get you a copy of this. I want to read you. This is really important. You just brought up this word. So, I was doing an interview with the drummer Billy Cobham, and he talked about Toots Thielsman had a concert. It's going back like 20 years in Italy, and Toots was in Belgium, I think, and he committed to this concert in Italy, and so it was a year out, and they get all the sponsors together, and Toots forgets, because he was like 88 or 90 years old at the time, he forgets that he made a pledge that he was never going to leave Belgium ever again. And so, it comes time to play, and they call up Toots, and he's like, I'm not leaving Belgium. And they said, but, all the sponsors, all the money's in, and people are bought tickets. He's like, give him the money back. So the promoters were in a pickle, and so they called Billy Cobham and said, hey, we are in a pinch, and we need you to come up with a band. And he brought together Kenny Barron, Ron Carter, and himself. And the quote just disappeared from my phone. But the point, he goes, repertoire is basically being able to play between 150 to 200 songs in any key, in any within reason, and to be able to do it without any rehearsal. And so they were able to go. They had a ball. There was a lot of trust there. But when you talk about what is the Rand Blake concept when you hear the word repertoire? What does that mean for younger cats?
Well, instead of I think it's the singers and instrumentalists that are going to inspire you to do the repertoire. And there are people like Arthur Hamilton and Bobby Troop. They also Route 66. They did pieces that are now these are dated now.
No, they're not, dude. They're still they're still there.
When you hear "Cry Me a River" like Ray Charles does it, you still feel something. But actually, I have one quick question to you, and then I want you to ask this question. I might have forgotten the point.
Go ahead. It's fine.
You mentioned in Dizzy Gillespie, in the 1960 band, you mentioned somebody called Fincher?
Candy Finch.
Okay, I guess I forgot that name.
He was, I'm pretty sure he was, at least the Lalo, there's a record of Dizzy's with Lalo and Finch is on it. Maybe he wasn't at the Jazz Gallery when you were there. I don't know.
But he could have been. I don't say that. I was encouraged. The owner of the Jazz Gallery, I had been hired by his associate, and he said if I had been there, I never would have asked you to join our waiting staff because I knew you were here to listen. And there's stories about how I dropped hot coffee and laps.
Rand, just put me back. I would love to. You could have dropped coffee on me, dude. I would have been fine.
Well, it's, anyway.
No, because you were just obsessed with the sounds and the music.
Yeah. And but I mean, there were people like Nika Rothschild, Kongswater, who got me back. They demoted me to kitchen, and then I became a special waiter. I should never put ice in her drinks. I learned the hard way.
Well, you talking about you talking about Monk's wife?
I can remember, and that really was a jazz education. Being in New York City, coming from a provincial Connecticut town.
Well, please, dude. What was eye opening? That is, to me, that's the gravy, man. Like there's very few cats that have that opportunity because, I mean, that part of that world was a black subculture.
No, and still there's opportunity, but can you think there was a day that Thelonious Monk was in the phone book? And now even middling songwriters, I mean, maybe they change emails but I don't find students seeking out. I guess, somebody I had hoped we'd give Al Green an honorary, but we're giving James Taylor one this year. I don't think he's easy for folk people to reach. I guess being there in New York in 1960, well, you couldn't look up Sarah Vaughan or Ella, but I mean, there were.
Thelonious Monk was in the phone book.
Yes,
that is beyond that. That is
his address, and I forgot it. I was going over there on a winter night for what I thought would be a lesson, and I think in the biography of Monk, this is mentioned by Robin Kelly, and the place had had a fire and all that. But, they were open to, Mulligan wasn't, but most people, Billy Taylor, us, they would listen. And of course, at the same time, I'd be going out hearing them. So Mary Lou Williams would say to me, "Oh, you're here again this week." And then I asked her in consultation. But some people want to immediately get to somebody and get a reference for a gig. Not that I didn't want a gig, but I wanted to musically grow and grow and grow. And I still think I can hear one of my records and be bored.
No, I think it's. Did you meet Mary Lou at the Hickory House, or what? Where did you first connect with her?
I did hear her there, and then there was a club called Composer. But I went up to meet her at 63 Hamilton Terrace, where she lived in Harlem, and I can still picture the front room. And she was also with Bel Canto, a Catholic foundation.
Wow. Yeah.
And was very strict with her rosemary beads. But there, I guess I was looking for education, but also for permission to keep on performing. And I really, when she talked about Stride or Kate, I really didn't have the background. It was isolated gospel and things like Debussy and Stravinsky, Rite of Spring, only probably less rhythmical forms. And I barely knew who Dizzy was till the mid-50s. I mean, it really was. I really loved orchestra and gospel singers.
I mean, you couldn't. That's just like about as. That's about as beautiful as you could. When did you get? Do you remember? Like, did you see live bebop? Did you get your hands on a record? What was the first? How did you get hip to bebop?
Well, I actually did. I believe I saw Charlie Parker in '52 in Hartford.
Are you kidding? You saw Bird in '52.
Jazz at the Philharmonic.
Yep.
Because I knew Ella was there.
Right.
I didn't know the other cats, and I did meet Ella for 1 minute at the Bushnell Memorial.
Oh, the Bushnell Auditorium. Unbelievable.
I said something like, "You're wonderful," or something. I didn't even shake your hands or anything. It was just in backstage
That's
as
fine.
I was walking. But I really, I don't think I liked Parker a lot, but I'm not sure I really liked Bob too.
Yeah.
20 years later.
Yeah, I did.
I did. Now,
yeah.
Listening through Charlie Parker, it just keeps me awake and informs me. But the composition is more than the soloing, and and how Blakey, Max Roach, Big Bill, all the people, the different kind of backups he would have, and then I would discover Blind Lemon Jefferson blues singers, Robert Johnson.
It was like Reverend Gary Davis at all, or?
Oh, he was wonderful.
Yeah.
But I don't know him well. I wish I knew.
No, I'm just because, I mean, there was all that. God, we're gonna have to do set 2, Rand. Before
We'll do another set.
Before we wrap up, I really just wanted you to talk about a dear friend of mine and a guy who you go way back with, and ultimately how you guys originally connected, and that's Barry Miles.
Well, he was an 11-year-old drummer.
Yes.
Are you in New Jersey?
No, I'm in Long Island, guy. I'm in Tucson, Arizona. But yeah, I mean, but Barry, I mean,
I love Tucson.
It's great.
Better than Phoenix.
But last time I interviewed Barry, he goes, "Have you interviewed Rand yet?" I said, "I've been trying to get to him for years," and he goes, "Dude, we were playing duets when Rand would come to my house, and on the weekends we would just play when you were kids."
Yes, and I had him up at the Bard College Festival. He was 11 or 12. I don't know how, and now he plays other instruments, but he was a special type of drummer.
Yeah.
And please give him my best. We did connect about 12 years ago, and I had no idea you were searching for me.
Dude, Rand, I'm telling you, 2 months ago, I'll send you the interview with Barry. He talks about that the Bard. He talked about the music festival. Yeah, I'll get you.
Let me have a couple of other interviews, Jake. It's been so nice of you to fit me on.
Hey, Rand, we'll do it again, man. Much love to you, man.
Definitely.
All right, be
Bye-bye,
cool.
Jake.
Later.